Have you ever looked at a computer and wondered what is happening inside? You click something, something appears. You open a game, it starts, you type a message. The words appear instantly. It can feel like magic, but it isn't. A computer is just a system. Different parts work together. Some parts receive information, some process it, some remember it, and some show you the result. Today, we're going inside the computer. We'll look at hardware, the CPU, RAM, storage, and the operating system. By the end, you'll understand what actually makes a computer work. And I promise, it's much simpler than it looks. So, what exactly is a computer system? Think about a restaurant. You have the customer, you have the kitchen, and you have instructions. They all need each other. A computer works in a similar way. You have the user. That's you. You give the computer commands and information. Then you have hardware. Hardware is everything you can physically touch: the screen, the keyboard, the CPU, the mouse. Then you have software. Software is different. You can't touch it. Software gives the computer instructions. So we have the user, the hardware, and the software, all working together. And most computer systems do four basic things. They receive input, they process it, they can store it, and they produce output. That's the big idea. A computer isn't one thing, it's many parts, working together. Now let's make this even simpler. Most computer tasks follow the same basic flow. First, input. Information enters the computer. Maybe you press a key. Maybe you click the mouse. Maybe you speak into a microphone. Then comes processing. The computer takes that information and works with it. After that, the information can be stored. And finally, we get output. The result appears. Think about typing your name. You press letters on the keyboard. That's input. The computer processes those letters. It can save them. And then you see your name on the screen. That's output, input, process, storage, output. Different task, same basic idea. Let's talk about hardware. Hardware is the easy part to understand. Why? Because you can touch it. Your keyboard is hardware. Your monitor is hardware. Your mouse is hardware. Inside the computer, you also have hardware: the CPU, RAM, storage, the motherboard. These are all physical parts. Think about your own body. You have arms, legs, eyes, a brain. Your body has different parts with different jobs. A computer is similar. It has many physical parts. Each part has a job, and they communicate with each other. So remember this simple idea. Hardware is the computer's body, but a body still needs something to control it. We'll come back to that later. Now meet one of the most important parts, the CPU. CPU means Central Processing Unit. But don't worry about remembering the long name. Just remember this. The CPU is like the computer's brain. It receives instructions, it works with information, it performs calculations, and it helps control the other parts. Imagine you're solving a maths problem. You read the question, you understand it, then you solve it. The CPU does something similar. It fetches an instruction, it decodes it, and then it executes it. In simple English, get the instruction, understand the instruction, do the instruction. And it does this incredibly fast, again and again and again. So when your computer is working, the CPU is constantly processing instructions. That's why we call it the brain of the computer. Now let's talk about RAM. RAM can sound confusing. So imagine a desk. You're doing homework. Your desk contains the things you're using right now: your notebook, your pen, maybe your laptop, maybe a textbook. That's basically what RAM does. RAM holds the information. The computer is using right now. Open a browser. Part of it goes into RAM. Open a game, it uses RAM. Open another application. More RAM is used. A bigger desk gives you more working space, and more RAM gives the computer more space for active tasks. But here's the important part. RAM is temporary. Turn the computer off, and the information in RAM disappears. So RAM is fast. RAM is useful. But RAM is not permanent storage. Think of RAM as the computer's working desk. So, if RAM is temporary, where do your files stay? That's where storage comes in. Storage keeps information permanently. Well, permanently until you delete it. Your photos live there. Your videos, your games, your documents, your applications, even your operating system. And unlike RAM, storage keeps the information when the computer turns off. Imagine a filing cabinet. You finish your work, you put the documents inside, you go home. Tomorrow, the documents are still there. That's storage. Modern computers normally use an SSD. SSDs are fast. Older computers may use an HDD. You can also use external storage, USB drives, memory cards, and other devices. So remember, RAM holds what you're working on. Storage keeps what you want to save. This is where beginners often get confused. CPU, RAM, storage. They are not the same thing. Let's use one simple example. Imagine you're doing homework. The CPU is you. You're doing the thinking, you're doing the work. The RAM is your desk. It holds the things you're currently using. And storage is your filing cabinet. It keeps your work for later. So, CPU does the work. RAM holds the current work. Storage saves the work. Three different jobs, and all three work together. If you remember that comparison, you already understand one of the most important ideas in computer hardware. Now, how do we give information to a computer? We use input devices. Input means information going into the computer. Your keyboard is an input device. You press a key. The computer receives information. Your mouse is another input device. Move the mouse, and the computer receives movement. A microphone sends sound. A camera sends images. A scanner captures documents. A touch screen receives your touch. Think about playing a game. You press a button. That's input. The computer receives your command. Then it decides what happens next. So whenever you're sending information from the real world into the computer, you're using input. If input means information going in, what is output? Exactly. Information coming out. An output device gives you the result. Your monitor is the easiest example. The computer processes information and shows you something. Text, images, videos, games. That's output. Speakers are another example. The computer sends sound to you. A printer creates a physical copy. A VR display shows you a virtual environment. So think of it like a conversation. You speak to the computer using input. The computer responds using output. Input goes in. Output comes out. Simple. Now let's put everything together. Imagine you're typing a message. You press the letter H. What happens? First, the keyboard sends input. The computer receives the key you pressed. Then the CPU processes that information. RAM helps hold the information while you're working. Then the screen shows the letter. That's output. Press another key. Same process. Again and again. It happens so quickly that you don't even notice. Keyboard, input, CPU, and RAM. Processing, screen, output. Something as simple as typing already uses several computer components together. That's what makes it a system. Now we have the hardware, but we still need something to manage everything. That's the job of the operating system. The operating system is the main software that manages the computer. Think about a manager in a company. Different workers have different jobs. Someone has to organize everything. The operating system does that. It manages the CPU. It manages memory. It manages files. It manages storage. It manages connected devices. It also helps applications use the hardware. When an app needs memory, the operating system helps. When an app needs access to a file, the operating system helps. It also manages things like security, users, permissions, and updates. So remember, the operating system is the computer's manager, and you're already using operating systems every day. If you use many PCs, you'll probably see Windows. If you use a Mac, you're using Mac OS. Many servers use Linux. And on phones, you'll normally use iOS or Android. Different names, different devices, different designs, but they all have the same basic purpose. They manage the machine, and they help you use it. Think about your phone. You don't manually control the processor. You don't manually move information into memory. The operating system handles that for you. You simply tap an app, and everything works in the background. That's the power of an operating system. Okay, let's bring everything together. Hardware means the physical parts. The CPU processes instructions. RAM is temporary working memory. Storage keeps your saved information. Input means data goes into the computer. Output means the result comes out. The operating system manages the system. And the most important idea, a computer is a system. No single part does everything. The CPU needs RAM. Programs need hardware. Input devices send information. Output devices show results. And the operating system helps manage everything. Different parts, different jobs, one system. So, what really makes a computer work? Not one magical component, not just the CPU, not just RAM, not just software. It's everything working together. Hardware gives the computer a body, software gives it instructions, and the operating system keeps everything organized. That's the heart of a computer system. And once you understand these basic pieces, computers stop looking mysterious. Because computers aren't magic, they're systems, small parts following instructions and working together. And that's what makes a computer work.